I'm getting my first car. I've talked about this car to my friends, to my family, or to any other person that asked me about the first car I was getting. So we just signed the papers. It's ours. My dad is driving it because I don't have a license yet, unfortunately. We're going home with it. So this is my 1993 Mazda Miata, and the number one question I get asked is why? Why did I buy this 31-year-old rusted out slow Mazda when I could have gotten for example, a E92 325i, you know, a newer car, more comfy, faster. They go for the same price the Miatas go here. Or any other newer car, you know, something comfy, something practical. And I don't have the answer to that. I don't have a why, you know, it doesn't make sense, and that's what I love about it. It's just, the only thing that makes sense about it is when I sit in it, every time I smile from ear to ear. Every time I look at it, every time I drive it, it's just brought out an emotion, you know, some kind of connection that no other car made me feel. And that's why I pulled the trigger on this little sucker. The nice thing about these cars is it just doesn't have to make sense. Look at the price of JDM cars. You know, they go for absolutely disgusting prices and people are still willing to pay for them. It's because it brings out some kind of feeling that no newer car can replicate, you know. It was December 7th when I went to look at this car for the first time. It was the only Miata I ever went to look at with the intention of buying it. I went to look at it with my dad, so he did the test drive with me, and I was just sitting there on the passenger seat. I just knew this was the car I wanted, like straight off the bat. I didn't like the tan interior at first, but it really grew on me. So we test drove it, and I just knew this was the car for me. I knew it right there on the spot. I had one more Miata I wanted to look at, but the guy canceled on me. So about a week after we went to look at this one, we went again, but this time to buy it.
All I want.
So we just signed the papers. It's ours. My dad is driving it because I don't have a license yet, unfortunately.
Just leave
We're going home with it.
dawn.
Go get her!
Everything up.
It's mine. She is mine.
Nothing's on my mind. I got the pop-up lights.
Funny thing is when the day we bought it and we went to drive it home from the seller, I didn't want to just sit in it. I didn't want to drive it. I just sat with Philip in his E90 and just looked at the car the whole way. The whole drive home, I just wanted to look how the car looks on the road. I just fell in love with it completely. So a month after we brought it in, we went to do the MOT and get it registered because it was a car originally from Canada. It got brought to Germany, and from Germany, the seller brought it into Czechia and it was still on German plates. So we went to get it registered for Czech plates. I let it sit for about a month. Then I just couldn't wait anymore, even though it was cold and the days were still short. I just wanted to work on it. So the first thing I did with Philip, with my friend, is the windows. They rolled down very slow, so I just had to clean the rails and everything. And then I decided it was the best thing for me to do with zero to none experience with working on cars, to do the timing belt myself with another friend that has never worked on cars. If we don't talk about, I don't know, changing a wheel or something. So we did the timing belt, which went pretty successfully.
So how is it going, Oliver?
Pretty shitty. Oh, cool. Changed the water pump as well. And while I was at it, I also painted the valve cover, which I f***ed up twice when I tried to do it myself. So I just went and got it powder coated because I didn't have the nerve for it. Changed some rubber hoses to silicone hoses. I think it was the vacuum and coolant ones. Changed the air filter, which was really nasty, and that's where I realized, like, okay, this car was pretty neglected. I ordered new wheels, which were the Advanti Storm S1s, a very popular wheel. got some rubber on them and received the plates after a few months of waiting. And I just couldn't let it sit here and just wait for me until I get my license. That would be in May. So I told my friend and we went to take it for a spin. It was such a nice feeling finally sitting in the car and just enjoying it. And it's like, oh fuck, I fixed this myself, or just I did the maintenance on this. I did something on the car myself and it drives. I didn't believe it. That was the funniest part. So after the drive, I realized the soft top was leaking. So I changed that from the tan, rusty, crusty old one to a black one. The brakes were so I disassembled those. And after some more time waiting and trying to make a little bit of money for the parts and waiting for my driver's license, or until I finished my driving lessons, I bought some more parts, which was coilovers, a GV style lip. I got my brakes powder coated and also had to do a coolant flush because that thing was rusty to the core. The same day I got my brakes powder coated and I could have picked them up is the same day that I got a notification that I can pick up my driver's license. And there was this car with no brakes just waiting for me. And I just said, I'm not having my first drive with a driver's license with my grandma's Golf or my dad's Jeep or something. I just wanted this car to be the first car I drive legally. So I went home, got my driver's license, and was in the garage until I got the brakes rebuilt, mounted on the car, and the brakes bled. It was kind of low when I drove out here and the roads aren't great here in Czechia, so it was quite funny, me still being very amateur in terms of driving and scraping everywhere, but it was fun. I went to a few car meets, driving it around for about a month until one day it rained. And I didn't get a better idea than to, try and slide it around. A car with pilot sport tires, open diff, and a dumb behind the steering wheel. So you can guess how this ended up. I crashed it.
Všechno karoseřina, jenom promáčklej tady sviklej. No, jak to bude vytahovat? V klidu.
Kámo, já vím, že teďka vůbec to nechci říkat, ale jednou za to video budeš rád.
The second I crashed it, I really didn't know how to feel at all. Like I was just in shock. You have this invincibility feeling when you first get your driver's license. You're like, oh, that can never happen to me. I can never crash. Like, 'cause that's not what's gonna happen to me, until it does, and you don't want to believe it. And I didn't know I really didn't know how to feel in that moment, because I didn't know what's wrong with the car, because it was in the plants, in the ditch on the side of the road. So I was like, oh yeah, oh yeah, we're gonna fix it. And that mood's changed within a second. I was like, oh no, dude, it's fucked, the car's fucked,
Yeah, okay, I think,
Thankfully, it wasn't anything major, just a lower control arm that was completely fucked. 2 of the wheels were gone and some minor scratches here and there on the fender and the bumper. I got it fixed in 4 days. I went to pick up a lower control arm from a parts car and bought these Advan A3 replicas from a friend of mine. So I got it on the road pretty quick. Of course, I had to get some revenge photos on the spot I crashed it, so here they are. It's getting really dark and cold here, so sorry if I'm shivering a lot. But yeah, after I fixed it, I had some fitment issues because I went from ET25 to ET0 wheels, but it fits pretty nice right now. Even though I have slight camber in the rear, it's not so bad. So after fixing it up, I drove it around for a bit, then went on a month-long backpacking trip across Italy and Europe. That was pretty fun. And after I came back, I wanted to have more fun with the car. And I didn't get a better idea than to get my 14-inch stock wheels with almost 20-year-old tires mounted on them and go and learn how to drift properly on this empty lot. That was also the first day I ever got a ticket, 1,000 Czech crowns for drifting. So there's that. Even though I still had in my mind the amount of money that already went into the car, and I didn't want to crash it, I didn't want to f it up and everything, I realized the most fun I have with it is when I'm sliding, when it's just going sideways. And I decided that the way I'm gonna build this car is a street drift pocket rocket. So I mounted a new steering wheel. Because the stock one sucks. Slid around with the open diff on some old tires I always got from a junkyard that I always had to pop up to 4.5 bars. So I lose at least some traction with it being an open diff. And then I got tired of the open diff and said, you know what, F it. Let's put a welded one in.
Monster. Jasná volba při opravě Miaty. Jedinečná chuť a složení.
And then I was completely sold. And after about a month driving around with a welded diff, I went to this car meet called Prague Car Festival. It's a car show with a small car meet outside. So I went there. It was fun. A lot of people loved the Miata, which I was so happy about. I was very nervous, didn't really know what to do with having that much people around you. Just, you know, you don't get it because I'm used to the car and people are not. And when you see a Miata here, it's pretty rare. So that's maybe why people loved it. I don't know, there was a lot of them. On the way from the car meet, I was listening to music, but when I turned my JBL speaker off because, you know, my speakers in the car don't work and I don't have a radio, I realized something around the gearbox sounded like it was a sequential, you know, it was like this ugly sound that was getting louder and louder as I went closer to home. So I stopped, looked under the car, at least where you can see, and it was completely pissed around the gearbox with the gear oil, you know. It smelled a lot. So I put it on a rope, got it in neutral, and went about 50 kilometers home on a rope. And that was the last time I drove it. It's been a month since that happened. And it's sitting here. So my first idea was like, okay, I'm gonna let it sit through winter, bring it into my friend's garage and work on it over winter. And when spring comes around, I'm just gonna bring it out all nice, everything done on the car. But first of all, I don't have a daily, so I'd always have to borrow my grandma's or my parents' car, which I really don't want to do. And also, I want to have fun again. So I picked up a gearbox, ordered a new clutch that arrived yesterday, but that's for another video. So stay tuned.